Recording in progress. I want to name the show that because it seems pretty cool. We are back on the Ultimate Sports Network. I am Frank Gordon, the CEO, host, and chief bottle washer of this whole stupid thing. And we are joined by a person who's going to introduce themselves.
Oh, hello there. My name is Caitlin Stoddard. I grew up loving sports, and what I provide for Ultimate Sports Network is I'm sorry.
It's a mouthful. Yeah, that's cool.
Ultimate Sports Network. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous.
That's right.
I would talk about fantasy sports, and we all know, all the sports lovers know how competitive fantasy sports are, and right now, topics are just everywhere regarding players in the NFL to the NBA, and soon become hockey. So it should be really interesting for sure to see what comes about, and I'm eager to write for you guys and give you my thoughts and opinions.
Now, you bring up a very good question. I'm wearing my Golden Knights jersey. Exactly how are we going to do hockey?
I'm sorry?
How are we going to do fantasy hockey? Because there aren't as many points scored. There aren't as many different little things. How do we compile stats for that way?
Well, I think hockey, fantasy-wise, is kind of tricky in some ways because I think it's so different because, fantasy football and basketball are the same just about when you draft because, you have it's like a snake. You're it's just going back and forth. But with hockey, I think it really just comes down to the stats from last season and to how well the players performed, I think. It really just comes down to that. And I think it's also to monitor the players that are injury prone because I know that could definitely ruin some fantasy values for a lot of people who are looking forward to be drafting this year.
And I think it has something to do with the tenor of the team. Like using the Golden Knights, for example, 2 years ago, it was Leonard and Fleury. And Leonard and Fleury. So they were almost splitting time when Leonard came over. Oh. But last year, it was Leonard being hurt. We went, well, it's mostly Fleury and then maybe the backup guy every now and then. So you have to kind of understand who's playing who has coaching style and team style as well.
Well, I think, I think it's important not just for like fantasy hockey, but I just think for any kind of fantasy sport to keep in mind, like the duels that are going on for each position, which player has the best chance to start and carry my fantasy team to win this big season.
Well, I would use my example from last year of Michael Thomas. When Michael Thomas would play, he was going to get most of the looks.
Yeah.
So you think, is he playing this week or is he not? Is he playing this week or is he not? And you couldn't let him go because you knew when he played, he was going to get all the targets. So yeah, that was kind of fun.
Michael Thomas, that kind of bothered me. I never drafted him. I've always been high on drafting, like from past 2 years, but there's just something about him that I wasn't really certain with. Oh yeah, he can catch score, but now it's kind of decline.
Yeah,
might never come back, and that hurts,
right.
Especially with Breeze gone, and you have Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill starting as quarterbacks. That's hard because there's some really good talent on the wide receivers, and it's just I think Jameis Winston. No offense or anything, he's good and all. A lot of respect to him. But it's just that, it's just sometimes I think he overlooks the right receivers get the opportunity to win the game.
And he's not Drew Brees.
Oh, no one's Drew Brees.
Right.
It's like put Tom Brady in this mix. There's only one Tom Brady. People are saying Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT. And I'm like, yeah, just hold on for a second.
One thing I think is interesting is that because we've done this for a while and we start thinking this year I'm going to get this guy and you go, this year it's going to be Michael Thomas. This year it's going to be Todd Gurley. This year it's going to be, and you go, well, wait a second. We live in the vacuum of it's going to be the same every year and it's not. Sometimes it is. But you mentioned something when we got started, how many people, because I had Matthew Stafford for a couple of years and I went, this is going nowhere. I mean, it was, there are a couple picks here, because of what was going on around him. But is this a year to have Matthew Stafford, for example?
Yeah, funny you brought Matthew Stafford up. For the past couple of fantasy football seasons, I have picked him up as my backup quarterback for a couple of my leagues, and he did fine. But you have to understand too, whether or not if he stayed with the Lions or he's with the Rams, he will have his bad days, and that's just something fantasy owners need to realize. I mean, it's like they're panicking about it. I'm like, don't panic. Every quarterback. I repeat, every quarterback have bad games. Okay. Yes, Matthew Stafford looks promising. He looks awesome. Don't get me wrong. And he has Cooper Kupp. I mean, what a duo right there. I'm glad I drafted him. but I'm saying is like nothing's guaranteed since when you draft quarterbacks. They're gonna have, it's like Tom Brady. It was like Sunday Night Football. He didn't really have that great of a throwing production throwing because his top tight end was out, and I was explaining to my father last night that Gronk Gronkowski is like a security blanket for Brady.
Right.
Because Brady can count on Gronk to receive the ball and get those points.
And it frees things up for everybody else as well. So yeah.
Oh, it messes everything up. It's like Antonio Brown too. He's a hit or miss. I'm like, well, make up your mind. Are you going for Godwin? Are you going for Evans or Butterfinger Evans? I shall say. He's dropping nuts. Or are you gonna stick with Antonio Brown? Make up your mind. Who you want?
Okay, so now that we're morphing into other things, let's ask the important question.
Sure.
When you have a draft, let's say we're looking at a basketball draft, for example, are you better served getting a guy from a good team or a guy that puts up what should be good stats? For example, if you're averaging 26 on the Kings, is that better than to get one of the guys that could go for 26 with the Warriors?
Ooh, that's a good question, especially since they're just, talented players in the NBA. Honestly, I fall victim to this. It's just like, I go for there are a couple of underdogs on certain teams that I go for, such as I would say like Kawhi Leonard when he's healthy, he's an underdog.
Okay.
I go for him because when he's healthy, he can definitely produce the points for his team and for fantasy owners. He has never let me down unless he gets hurt. Now, if I want, it really just depends again, also on the stats, I think, of how well. It doesn't really matter the team. Sometimes, okay, for me, I'm high on Damian Lillard from the Portland Blazers.
Right.
But if you go beyond that, there are some really valuable players that are on good and bad teams that have put up just fantastic numbers that could really benefit a lot of fantasy owners. And one could be like Van Fleet from the Raptors.
Right.
It's like, yeah, he's not like a Stephen Curry or so forth, but he's reliable because he can get those extra points in that you need, or Zubac from the LA Clippers.
Right.
He's also a good one. He's kind of like people know it. Zach for Van Fleet, people know them, even though, they're not like Damian Lillard or LeBron James, but they're known to put up really good points.
Well, it would be like the comparison of Devin Booker 2 years ago to Devin Booker now. The team has gotten better, but his stats have gone down, which it makes sense because he's got more help around him.
Well, I think, when you look at Devin Booker, and I admire his athleticism. He knows how to play. But, yeah, sure, his stats are down, but thinking, who is it? His stats aren't down. It kind of just matters on who are the other starters, and I guess you have to say like who's on the other team.
Right.
It could also cause putting stats down, or it could be an injury, which I don't think has happened, which I hope not. But I just think it really just depends on who the other stars are. I know I can't remember his name. Is it not Paul George? Somebody else, somebody really popular that's also on the Sunset.
Chris Paul.
Thank you. I couldn't remember, but thank you. Yes, Chris Paul. He's just as popular, and he's been gaining production, a little bit more of a production than Booker. So, and that could also be an issue when you draft. Do I wait for Chris Paul or do I?
Right.
Devin Booker. And that's just something, people need to really think about.
Well, speaking of thinking about it, I remember vividly, we did our first fantasy basketball draft. I think it was in 1989, if I'm not mistaken. And it was done on paper, we didn't have computer paper, we just had handheld, we did the whole thing. And I thought it was fantastic. But since I did the draft and I did all the stats and everything, I did everything, I won, and people thought I was trying to cheat. So how can I cheat on this? You can look it up myself. But I was getting the stats from USA Today and compiling them that way. Now that we have, Yahoo and this and that and all these other things, is it more interesting to do a draft or to do a league now, or is it more computerized and more cookie cutter? Adding in FanDuel and DraftKings and that kind of stuff, is it less personal, I guess, with the people in your league in general, or is it just I can reach more people now and be in other leagues?
I think it's really interesting with how sports betting has become involved with fantasy. I don't. It's not sports betting is not my thing, but cool
Right.
for anybody else. That's cool. That's cool. It's just not my thing. But I think it kind of takes away the fun of fantasy. You know what I mean? It's like it's supposed to be fun, trying to figure out, which player do you want on your team, and now people are just solely going by the popularity of the player, or just going by the power of the team, like Denver Nuggets and Jokic. It's like a lot of people are going after him because he's popular and he's just awesome. And I just think and plus it's really competitive. People get really upset too if you pick, draft a player that they really wanted. And I just think, I'm not complaining. It's technology, but sometimes I think technology can take away the fun, take away the fun from fantasy sports.
Well, I'll tell you a brief little story. My fantasy football team this year, we've lost one game, and it's because Ezekiel Elliott scored 32 points, and I was up by 28. I thought I had it won. Okay, so the last week I had 3 guys that outscored the other team. It was phenomenal. But in my mind, this was the worst draft I ever had because I only got one person I wanted, and everybody else before my pick, or 2 people before my pick, got picked. And I'm scrambled to find, no, this isn't. I said, I'll settle for Deebo Samuel. I'll settle for this. I'll settle for Derrick Henry. I really want another back. And I'm like, wow. So it proves I don't know what I'm doing for one thing. But it's also kind of fun because when I got the guys that I wanted, I was scrambling to make trades and make free agent moves. This year, I'm like, I'm not doing anything for a while. And people are coming to me, would you trade? Like, nope, sorry.
Yeah,
so there's a question that there's something.
It kind of just that's why people what drives me crazy too, especially fantasy football owners. I'm not being nitpicky here. It's just something I've noticed. So I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not perfect either, people. So please forgive me. Trust me, I'm far beyond perfect. You should see my track record. It's just I know it's like people go by other people's opinions. Like, oh, don't draft Deebo Samuel. But he's injury prone. Get Brandon Ayuk. He's gonna get more production. I'm like, oh, you're funny.
Right.
It's like,
have you been paying attention? Right.
Yeah, are you really paying attention? Because it's like when you really think about when Deebo's healthy, he's gonna get all that production.
Yeah.
Unless, God forbid, because I have Deebo Samuel in one of my leagues, he gets hurt, then it's Ayuk time. So, it's just that people just need to pay attention. Okay, yeah, he's injury prone, but he's reliable. It's like Keenan Allen from the Chargers. He's reliable too. But right now, Mike Williams is shining like a diamond right now.
Well, you've got to look at who the quarterback likes to throw to.
Exactly. Justin Herbert, it's 50-50, especially with Jared Cook in the mix.
Right, exactly.
It's 50-50. He relies on those 3 to get the points. So it's a mixed bag with Herbert, which I like. But at the same time, it's just it'd be really nice to see him kind of just spice it up a little bit with the receiving core.
Okay, folks. So the people that don't do this as often as we do, what is the one thing that people should do? Think, here's why you need to do fantasy, because I feel that it is blank.
Well, Well, I can surely tell you why people should give it a shot. It's because it gives you a chance to really be creative in a way, because you get to really think about, you really get to create your own team based on what you think is right. It's like, sure, people are gonna get mad, but that's just part
It's
of life.
life. Yeah.
Just accept it as it is. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. You're not in charge of their actions, you're in charge of your own. So basically, it's just give it a shot. If you haven't tried, just give it a shot. Just see if you like it. I mean, fancy basketball, basketball season's like 3 weeks.
Yep.
I got it right. 3 weeks away. It's a long story on that one. It's 3 weeks away. Give it a shot. I encourage you guys, give it a shot. Just try it out. It's okay if you do not know much about the players. Just pick a player that you think will be best fit for your team. I mean, it's fancy. It's not like face-to-face sports. It's just a fancy with other teams, and the best thing about it is that when there's a boo-boo or I shall say, you can fix it. You just need to know, whether you want to drop the player or trade the player for somebody better. Other than that, it's fun. It's exciting. I love it. I mean, I'm not competitive, but at the same time, it's nice to, kind of get your competitors a little angry. So, but it's just fun. People mock me. A lot of people have mocked me this season, so it's just like, okay, well, watch this. And so, but again, just give it a shot. It's fun. If you don't like it, hey, at least you try something new, and that's important. So give it a shot. Let me know if you guys like it.
Well, thank you very much for hopefully getting people involved for what you do. Let's tell the people the show name again and where they can find you on the social media that they'd like to.
Right. So, social media wise, you can go on my LinkedIn. I have my apologies for mispronouncing it. It's a tricky name for me for some reason. It's actually my LinkedIn account is Kate Stoddard, CAIT, and last name STODDARD. I'm active. I've been starting to go back to being active, so I am going to be having that with my fantasy sports rant vlog. So if you want to reach out, message me, share your comments or opinions. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to hear your thoughts regarding fantasy players and or fantasy sports overall. I know there are some there are a lot of talented sports fans out there. I'd love to hear from you for sure.
We'll make sure we shove them your way. Thank you once again. It's been a lot of fun, and we'll do this again soon. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.